Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be discussing the difference between the straight arm forehand and the bent arm forehand. Now when I talk about the straight arm forehand compared to the bent arm forehand, I'm referring to when you're coming into your contact point. Whether you have a straight arm like this, like a Federer style, or more of a bent arm like this, like a Djokovic style. On the Pro Tour, it's most common to see the bent arm style as you come into contact. But in today's video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each, and then also speak about which style might be better for you and your game style. So we're first of all going to talk about the straight arm forehand. So what are the main benefits of the straight arm forehand? Straight arm forehand is great because it gives you longer reach. So this is great for when you're hitting balls that are on the run or further away from you. You might be able to find that you're able to get that contact point out and to the side and still remain balanced on your shot. And you might find that you're able to hit powerful balls on balls that players with a bent arm forehand might not be able to produce. Secondly, with the straight arm forehand, you have a greater leverage to create more powerful shots. And this is because as you come into contact here, you can see that I'm really able to produce a lot of racket head speed out and forward into the ball. And this isn't quite the same with that bent arm forehand. I'm able to get less forward momentum and less kind of space around my body to really drive forward into it, because the contact point might be a little bit further back compared to the straight arm. So you're not going to get that real racket head speed and leverage that you're going to get with that straight arm forehand. So you might find that if you hit with a straight arm forehand, that your racket head speed is greater than when using that bent arm forehand. Another benefit of the straight arm forehand is that it works really well for open stance forehands. And this is because you can remain on balance and still strike a really heavy shot with that straight arm forehand out wide. And you see players like Federer, when they're pushed out wide, you see that classic shot of him striking out in front, and he's still able to produce so much racket head speed and power even in those tough positions when he's pushed off the court. If you use the bent arm forehand, you might not be able to get as much power and acceleration from that open stance position, because like I said again, your contact point will be a little bit further tucked into your body here, and therefore you might just be able to kind of hit more topspin and brush the ball a bit more. However, there are a few cons of the straight arm forehand, and firstly, it is really hard to learn and master. And this is because it requires really great timing onto the shot that you're going to hit. If your timing is just a little bit off, you're not going to be hitting that ball as cleanly as you could be. So therefore, the straight arm forehand does increase your risk of miss hits and not hitting that ball in that sweet spot that you want to find. The second con is that it requires a lot of upper body strength. And that's why you'll find that in the WTA Tour, there's very few players that use that straight arm forehand. Because even doing these shadow swings here, I can feel that as I'm coming to straighten my arm out into contact, it is a strain on my arm, a strain on my elbow. So you need a lot of strength to be able to go out and meet that ball and really pop into it. With that bent arm forehand, you can get away with not being as strong because you're essentially absorbing that ball a little bit more, allowing the ball come to you instead of going out to reach the ball. So if you struggle with injuries or tennis elbow, then the straight arm forehand might not be a good option for you. In addition, another con of the straight arm forehand is that it's less versatile in tight spaces. So if your opponent has hit a really great serve to you, a body serve, you're probably going to find that you mistime your shot a little bit. Or if you're pushed out wide, you might find your timing is a little bit off, and you might find that you're not able to adjust and hit that ball as cleanly as you would like to. But now guys, let's move on to the bent arm forehand. So the bent arm forehand is the most common type of forehand on the Pro Tour and as well in recreational tennis. And this is because it is a lot easier to learn, it's a lot easier to master, and it does come more naturally to players having that bent arm forehand. In addition, the bent arm forehand may be a little bit better when you're in pressure situations, when you're in tight spaces. You might be able to adjust and adapt your swing and contact point a little bit more than if you have a straight arm forehand, and therefore you're more likely to be able to find a sweeter contact point and less likely to miss hit the ball compared to players that use that straight arm forehand. Another benefit of the bent arm forehand is that you're more likely to be able to generate more topspin with that bent arm forehand compared to the straight arm forehand. The straight arm forehand lends itself more to powerful shots and flat hitters, whereas the bent arm forehand lends itself more to players that like to hit with spin and heavy topspin, but also flatten out the shot as well. And this is because, as you can see, the bent arm forehand allows itself naturally more to a low to high swing path, whereas with that straight arm forehand, the swing path is more of a linear swing path through the ball, which lends itself more to a flatter hitter, compared to the bent arm, which lends itself more to kind of getting under the ball and really whipping up the back of the ball and rushing up for topspin. Another benefit of the bent arm forehand is that it puts less strain on your joints. So it puts less strain on the shoulder, the elbow, and on the wrist as well, because the contact point is closer to your body. And with this contact point, you're kind of absorbing the ball's pace and kind of letting it come to you a little bit more. Whereas with the straight arm, you're really going out towards the ball and putting pressure on that shoulder, that elbow, and that wrist as well. So some cons of the bent arm forehand are that you're likely to produce less power with the bent arm forehand compared to the straight arm forehand. And as I said, this is because there's less of a lever on that bent arm forehand. There's less kind of space to really accelerate into compared to when you're hitting that straight arm forehand. You can really go out and increase your racket head speed as much as you can. With the bent arm forehand, you're more likely to be absorbing the pace of the incoming ball, and therefore this style of forehand might suit a player that's more of a counter puncher and not so much of an aggressive style player. In addition, with the bent arm forehand, you don't have the same reach as you do with that straight arm forehand. So this might be a disadvantage on wider balls or shorter balls that you really want to try and get to and still create power on. So therefore, if you use a bent arm forehand, you might have to rely more on your footwork to get yourself out of difficult positions. But overall, if you're more of an aggressive baseliner style of player, then that straight arm forehand might be a better option for you, because you're really, like I said, going to lean more towards hitting a flatter shot with more power potential and more racket head speed through the shot on all types of balls. However, if you're more of a grinder or more of a counter puncher style player, then that bent arm forehand might be a good option for you. I do urge you guys to go out and kind of play between the two styles and see which one fits you and your body and your game style. And if you have any more questions about the two different styles, then do let me know in the comment section below. And guys, if you like this video, then please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more tennis videos like this one to come. And I'll see you in my next video.